Okay, 7 o'clock and you're good to go.
Do we have any visitors? How can I tell?
Henry Sienkiewicz.
Yep, you have Henry Sienkiewicz, who is the applicant from the Chestnut Street application. You have Maria Smith, who would like to speak on the application for 18 Fair Street, but the actual applicant has not arrived yet. You have Beth Ashbaugh, who is the applicant for number 3. And you have Allison McGraw, who has signed on just now. And Allison, which application do you want to speak on behalf of? If you could unmute yourself. There you go. Hi.
Yeah, no, I was just joining regarding the garage located on Fair Street.
Fair Street. Okay. So she's also for the garage and the applicant has not yet arrived for that one.
Okay, so we'll go through the perfunctory items. Welcome to all. The City of Oneonta Housing and Zoning Board of Appeals for September 29th, 2020. Gary, would you call the roll, please?
Chairman?
Here.
Commissioner Shields?
Here.
Commissioner Tomeno?
Yes, I'm here.
Commissioner Friedman?
Here.
Commissioner Back is absent. Commissioner Reese? You're muted, Dave, but I see you. Commissioner Montanti?
Here.
Councilmember Rafter?
Here.
Okay.
I like that static picture you have, John. I'll try that next time. Just get a picture and post it. All right, so we have a quorum. We will move forward. We'll look for a motion to approve the minutes of our August 3rd, 2020 meeting. If there are no additions or corrections.
I'd make the motion. I think they're fine.
Okay, is there a motion on the table by Lou Shields to approve? Is there a second?
I'll second them. I also reviewed them.
Larissa seconds the motion. Is there any further discussion or comments? Hearing none, we will accept them by acclamation. Carrie, is there any correspondence?
There is no correspondence.
No correspondence. All right, the first item on the agenda is 18 Fair Street. Is the person representing 18 here?
The applicant is not here.
Okay, we'll move on to 157 Chestnut Street. Is the applicant here?
Yes, he is.
Yes.
All right, sir, if you would be kind enough to explain to the board what you would like to do, please.
Okay, I just need a permit to put up a carport. I have 276 feet of, I guess, parking space along Chestnut Street. It's been used for parking for like 40 years. And because of my age now, and same thing with my wife, trying to get snow off the cars and stuff like that is getting more and more difficult. So I want to put up a carport to protect the cars and, help us with the snow.
Oh. Dave, do you have any questions for the applicant?
Not at this time. Do you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Louisa, any questions or comments on the application?
I guess the installation would be my only question. Is it a local contractor that you're ready to have a discussion with?
No, they're a carport outfit out of Pennsylvania.
Okay.
They will not come and do it until, I have a permit.
Okay. Because the positioning of where it's going to be placed, I'm just, I haven't looked at this. I mean, I see the schematics and the measurements, but the depth, how close does it come to the sidewalk there?
It will be probably 2 feet from the sidewalk. And right now, we park cars there anyway, so the cars are right next to the sidewalk
They are, okay.
without blocking the sidewalk.
Okay, yeah, I'm familiar with the site where it's at. All right, thank you. No other questions.
Okay.
Peter?
No questions.
Okay. Well, you're looking, to get a use variance and an area variance. And the reason you
Well, I
need
don't know,
that,
but
the reason you need
I don't-
that is that the carport cannot be the only structure on the property. It's an accessory structure
I-
to parking.
I already have a storage shed on the property that was put up many, many years ago. So there is another building there.
There's no question that there's another shed there. I mean, that's not considered a building, and I don't know if that shed went up with or without a permit, or was just set there.
I mean, that was done 40 years ago.
Yes, sir. No, it's been there for a long time.
Yes. And the property adjacent to where I want to put this up, that's a small parking area that they use. They have 4 cars there that they use for a rental. So there's already parking on the other
There's
side
no
of mine.
question that people have been parking there for, I'll just say 50 years that I'm aware of.
At least, yeah.
That
Like I said,
that doesn't change the requirements that we're facing for use and area variances.
well, we're parking there anyways.
Yes, sir.
And all I want to do is protect the cars from the snow. And so that, because I can't shovel, I just had to have heart stuff. And my wife, can't either. So we're trying to protect that area where we don't have to shovel any snow and protect the cars as well.
Well, I'm sure, you're probably not aware, but use variances are difficult to come by. And they require, demonstrative proof.
Now, why would this be a use variance since we've been parking there for over 50 years?
Because you're not allowed to have a parking structure as the primary building on the property.
Well, this is just a carport. It's not really, it's open on all sides. It's just a roof.
No, we're familiar with it.
Yeah.
If there was a review put out by the code office. I don't know if you read that or not.
No, I haven't received anything, no.
Okay, well, it was on the city website, talking about the code officer's interpretation of the application.
Okay, but, I guess, what do I do? What do I need to do? I wanted this before the winter came, so we wouldn't have to go through all this, with the snow and everything.
Lou, do you have any thoughts?
No, the only thing that concerned me a little bit, but along the 276 feet, whereabouts is what the carport be planned? Is it in the middle? Is it on the end? I don't see a diagram.
It's on the end. And right now I have a chain link, blocking marking the edge of my property and the property next to me. So it would be adjacent to the chain link fence. It's only one chain, and then it would go towards like if you're going towards the Daily Star. So it would be from, I guess, on the one end going towards the other way.
I have a
So
question.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I didn't
Yes,
mean to
Peter.
interrupt you, Mr. Sinkowitz.
No problem.
Is this parcel owned in the same name or names as the parcel where your house is located across the street?
Yes, actually, because of our age, recommended by the attorney, we have life tenancy to all the properties, but my son is actually the owner. So that would be John Sinkowitz. So I guess while I'm still alive, I'm the owner.
Maybe afterwards too. You never know for sure.
That's for sure.
Yeah, that's true.
Now, anything you can do to help, please, because I can't shovel anymore. And my wife is getting at that age too, she can't. And, you know, we just need to protect the cars because she's still working, you know, part-time. So she has to go out every morning.
The 30 feet, is that plan on putting 3 vehicles in there? Is that what you're doing?
Yes, sir. And it'll go back 21 feet, which is, you know, still leaving me space between the, I guess, the ravine or whatever you want to call it behind the house, because there's, you know, nothing really there. It used to be railroad stuff.
My concern also, aside from the fact that it's a separate parcel from the house lot, is that
Yes.
the submitted design is not really in keeping with the design of the streetscape as you go down the street. I'm not saying it's a great streetscape, but this is actually it clashes with the rest of the street fronts along Chestnut.
Well, the colors that we chose and everything would made everything blend in so that it wouldn't, you know, stick out like a sore thumb. It's not a cheap thing.
I do have a question. And I know that you've said that there's going to be 3 vehicles in there. Is there a plan because you want to just have that extra space, or do you have to have 3 vehicles under this carport?
Well, currently it'll be 3 vehicles, but, you know, the one tenant that I rent to, you know, isn't going to be there all the time. So most of the time it'll be 2 cars.
And based that you don't have the final decision from the code office, it's kind of, I think, hard for us to, you know, if you take a look at it, I don't know about the square footage, and that's kind of what I'm getting at. It looks like the carport exceeds 200 square feet. So if you were to get maybe a smaller structure, is that something that we can still work with, Ed? Or, and I understand the aesthetics is not conducive to, you know, what we would like to see, or, you know, what that area has as far as the houses that are in that area, but in my opinion,
Well, let's see. The house next to me, well, I'm sorry. The house next to me has been vacant for over 35 years.
Right.
And it's, you know, falling apart. We've got houses across the street that are falling apart. So, I mean, it's not like this is, you know, I guess, whatever kind of a ritzy area anymore. It's mostly college student rentals now. So it's not, you know, we have a few families left and that's about it.
And that's kind of what I was positioning, but I don't know what my team thinks.
Well, my concern about the aesthetics has more to do with the streetscape as a main entrance into the city. Not so much the the types of occupancy of the buildings along the way. All of those buildings along the way there, I think, were all built around the same time, and I don't know, probably 80, 90, 100 years ago. So they're all of kind of
Oh,
designed.
yeah, I know. Our house was built in 1913, I think, or something like that.
Yeah,
So I know what you're talking to, are railroad houses.
yeah.
And like I said, there's a vacant, I think it's a garage or something, maybe, 500 feet down, past us. So it's not like, putting up something that's ugly. We made it as aesthetic as possible. All four sides are open, and it's going to have a roof, and it's not something that's going to stick out. We tried to color coordinate it so it fit, with the area.
Well, I can tell you from listening to Peter, I would agree with him wholeheartedly on this. This is a gateway to our city. And because we have some dilapidated properties that exist there, does not persuade me to add more to it. Your design is not in keeping. Sir?
Pardon me, it's not dilapidated. It's, we're probably almost next to the Chinese wall that used to be there.
Yes, sir.
So, you can see what, all the stuff going, the houses here. And like I said, up on the bank here, we're trying to keep some of the houses decent, but then we've got absentee, owners and stuff like that. So nothing we can do about the vacant houses.
There's not. But what this board needs to consider is the use variance you're asking for, which is very difficult to obtain. And you're not giving a whole lot to say, hey, we're going to build a garage there, and the garage is going to look like a house when we're done. And would you consider that? What you're doing is saying we're going to go buy a 10 shed that we pick up from a 10 shed dealer who puts the thing together, with a hammer, and there it sets.
Well, it's not just a hammer. It's screwed and everything. It's top of the line. It's not a, just put 4 poles up and, something like that. It is top of the line, so it's not, going to stick out like a sore thumb like your concerns. And, I just don't have the finances to put up a garage.
I understand that, Mr. Sienkiewicz, and I appreciate it. I mean, we have, 2 different things to deal with here. We all want to help everybody we can, every time we can, but we have an overriding obligation to maintain the city zoning code.
Yeah, I understand that, but this, like I said, this is on Route 7. So it's not in the middle of the city. We're out here, you might call us the suburbs, I don't know. But it's nothing that's going to stick out like a sore thumb.
For that question, this is Dave Reese. Question, with that thing jammed, I say jammed, 2 feet away from the sidewalk, and you're putting 3 cars in there together, is that going to create visibility problems getting in and out?
No, because the tenants are on the other side of my property already do that with their cars. But this will not block any view.
But it is more wide open than if you stuff them all 3 under a roof, isn't it?
Well, it is wide open on all sides. You've got a roof, and then I've got, I think 2 or 3 foot, piece that will come, next to the roof, and the rest of it is wide open. It's not going to block any view either way. I mean, we've got, like I said, the cars that the students use. They don't care where they park, and they do more blockage than anything else. I had a couple of trees that were diseased. The city engineer said, I should probably take them down. That was a blockage, but now that's clear, so you can see either way without any obstructions.
Steve, are you still with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Did you explain to Mr. Sinkowitz the requirements for a use variance?
I mean, it's just in the memo that we put out. So, I mean, the application was filed. We just read a memo and provided to the board.
I mean, he said he is unaware of what those requirements are. Would you mind taking a couple of minutes and just giving him a cliff note?
So basically, to get a use variance, you have to show that essentially that the that lot can't be used for anything else, that it's a pre-existing hardship. Basically, they're almost not, I mean, it's almost impossible to actually get a use variance. So basically,
Well, it can't be used for anything else. It's just a parking lot, a strip of land, because I bought it from the D&H.
Yeah, so when the zoning code was updated, those parcels, when they were zoned, were basically zoned so that, you basically couldn't install a new surface parking lot if you wanted to. So it's kind of just a pre-existing, we're trying to keep people from building structures like that. So you're essentially requesting to be able to build something the city is trying to keep from being built.
But this is not a permanent structure either. It's just an anchored, carport. It's, not dug into the ground. It's, nothing like that. It's been used, like I said, the only use you have for it is a parking lot because it's got room just enough for a car to go back, and then otherwise you go over the bank like it was by the old Chinese wall. And so it has no other use other than parking. And I'm just trying to protect the cars.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that. The only issue that you're going to run into is, like I said, the zoning code specifically says you basically can't create accessory buildings on lots unless there's a principal use there. So, like, if there was a house there, if there was a building there, the intent of the code is to prevent people from just building garages on vacant lots, basically.
Well, like I said, this has been used as parking for, as long as I've been alive. And like I said, we purchased it from the D&H. All it is a strip of land along Chestnut Street.
Right.
And I'm just trying to protect the cars.
I mean, that's why you're in front of the zoning board, because I can't approve it in the office. So the only, the zoning board would have to make a review of the application and say, well, yeah, it has been here for 50 years and it's always been used for parking. And they would have to go through those reasons and either grant you a variance so I can issue you a permit, or deny a variance. And then, you'd have to either come up with a new plan or a new application or some sort of.
Well, there's no other use for it. I mean, it's just a strip of land. It's not, you can't build a house there because there isn't that much land.
Right.
And it's basically car length size. And we're just trying to protect the cars so we don't have to shovel.
Right.
I don't want to get too deep into this, but we are. So in many places you see parcels that straddle a street. Single parcel that has some land on one side of the street and some land on the other. So it seems to me that would make the requirement for a use variance, if that was true about these two parcels, the house lot and the parking lot, it would be less necessary to get a use variance. I'm not sure how much less necessary it would be.
Yeah, if it was one parcel, you could make the argument that there's an existing use, the house. If this wasn't an individual lot, but as it stands now, I mean, as the zoning code.
We own a house at 164 Chestnut Street across the street. I also own the house at 158 Chestnut Street. And then we have the lot that we purchased. And like I said, I've had a storage shed there for 30 years. And, you know, we've never had any problems that way. But like I said, the only use for that land is parking.
So what I was thinking about was if these two lots were tied in perpetuity together,
Hmm.
so that that parking area could not be a separate use at any point, would only be an accessory use to the house across the street. That seems to me to be a basis for an argument that the use variance is not as critical an issue. I still have a very significant issue, though, with the design of the building. And what I'm wondering is if it's even possible to make a building that would fit in that streetscape at that location. Same exact design in that it's a roof with no walls, but with a structure that looks more like other buildings along the street.
And also not a temporary structure, Peter.
Yeah.
It's
not
clearly a temporary structure.
Right, not a temporary structure.
So, I mean, the arguments that I think you make, Peter, are cogent, but those are arguments the applicant should have made when he came in. He should have had drawings on here to show it. He should have been willing to, you know, tie the properties together with the deeds. None of these things are presented to us.
Well, I mean, it's a separate property. How can I tie it in?
It's very simple. You go, I mean, we're not here to tell you how to do it, but it's simply done. You can tie them all together. You can put them on one master deed. There's a lot of solutions for that. But these are solutions for you and or your son to come up with. They're not solutions for this board to offer. We have to make a decision based on the information you supply.
No, I understand that.
Okay, so that's what we're working off of. Lou, do you have any other questions for the applicant or any comments?
Nope.
Alyssa?
No, I'm all set.
Jim?
No comment.
Dave?
Yes, just one comment. I'm not in favor of it as it is. If the overhead was, or the depth of the building was more like 15 or 16 feet, and he went down to 2 slots, maybe 20 feet wide, with whatever he's going to put in there, it might be more realistic. I'm really concerned about that thing being 2 feet from the sidewalk and cars backing in and out of there. So I'm not in favor of it as it stands.
Okay, thank
you.
Peter?
As far as, you know, backing in and out, we've been doing it for 40 years. So it's not, you know, there's no obstructive part of that. The trees were the big obstruction. They're gone. So, I mean, it's
You're
clear
not
view.
restricted as it exists now. You're not restricted to be a little catty corner, a few degrees off here and there. But if you put a structure there that makes you go exactly perpendicular to the road to get in and out of it, that creates a problem.
Okay, Dave, thank you. Peter, any final thoughts?
No, I just could not approve it as it's proposed.
Okay. So if there's,
Well, then I guess
Is
I
there-
waste
are
my
there-
tax money on it.
is there anyone here from the public that would like to comment on this application? All right, hearing nothing. Carrie, did you hear anything or see anything? All right, so we will close any public comment on it, and the board will now commence to make a decision. So right now, we have the application in front of us in an MU2 zone for use variance and an area variance to build a temporary carport for parking at 157 Chestnut Street. Is there a motion from anyone on the board to approve or deny the application?
I make a motion, Dave Reese, to deny the application.
Mr. Reese has a motion on the floor to deny the application at 157 Chestnut Street. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion made by Dave Reese and seconded by Commissioner Friedman. Is there any further questions or comments from the board? All right, hearing none, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll, and we're voting on a denial of the application. Carrie,
Chairman,
aye.
Commissioner Shields,
Aye.
Commissioner Tomino,
Aye.
Commissioner Friedman,
Yes.
Commissioner Reese,
Aye.
Commissioner Montanti.
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right. Is there anyone here representing 18 Fair Street?
Yes, Mr. Haney is logged on.
Okay, very good. Would you like to tell us what you'd like to do, sir?
We bought our house 2 years ago. I think I sent you a drawing I made. The garage that was on our property was falling down. We built another garage on our property. Built. So we got back in July, and
Mr. Haney, could we just ask you to move the computer closer? Because I can hardly hear. I'm so sorry to have you repeat everything, but
that's okay.
I figured I'd just stop you midstream if you don't mind.
Well, we bought our house 2 years ago. We had a garage on the property, which was falling down, and we were going to repair it. And we had somebody ready to do that. They came in July and they said it was irreparable. It couldn't. The foundation was in such bad shape it couldn't stand. So they tore it down and we rebuilt the garage on the same footprint, except we moved it closer into our property because it was impinging on our neighbor's property on 16 Fair Street. So, and I think I drew a little bit of a part of the. I don't know, is this the same? I think you have a different.
Yeah, you have a different drawing.
It should be a better drawing than that one.
Gary, do you have a different drawing you can show us?
Yeah, I don't know how I'm going to get it on there. I got it in my hand. It's because the one you have is the. You should have a different one there. You don't have. That's the only one you have.
As of right now, so let's take a look.
Rode the train west, the end of the line. I guess you'd say my life is sort of at loose ends. You know, I've been trying to get.
Can you, is that the only drawing you have, is the one that you showed there?
It is. I'm gonna go into code enforcement's files quick. Sorry, Stephen, and see what I can find.
So as I recall, this is a one-story garage, single car garage. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes.
And the variance is because of the distance to the property lines?
I don't know what a variance is.
Yeah, I'm not even sure.
So let me clarify this real quick. It appeared like the existing garage that was there was actually built on part of the neighbor's property.
That's right.
We're still not exactly sure whether the garage that was constructed there before this meeting and with, I mean, we haven't permitted this garage yet.
No.
Yeah, right. So there was no site plan review for the demolition. There's been no site plan review for the new garage. The garage has been built. We're not exactly sure where the property line is in regards to the new garage. So this was all done kind of before, like when that memo was sent out, the garage hadn't been built yet.
Which memo?
So the memo to the ZBA that we sent out probably 2 months ago, when you first made your application.
Right. When I first made my application, the person who was going to fix the garage was already here and it had been demolished already.
Exactly. That's what I'm going to. So
Right.
all this was done without permits and without any of the required processes. So at this point, the garage has been built and I'm still not exactly sure where the property line is in regard to the new garage. This parcel, I think, is also, if you look in the memo, I think it's also undersized. So I think it requires site plan review to even build anything on it.
Well, Stephen, I'm going to go one step further. I think at this point, and I reached the same conclusion when I was there today looking at it, we do not know where the property lines are or exist, and until we are presented with accurate survey maps of the property, there's really nothing for this board to consider.
How do we,
So what do we do? What do we have to do?
what's
to
our
make it-
next step?
Well, again, it's not this board's job to tell you, but we're happy to help you. I would call a licensed surveyor and have a survey done of your property.
Now,
you know-
now we
You know where
spoke,
it is.
yeah, we spoke to both our neighbors, you know, to the, on Otsego Street and to the Harbees on 16 Fair Street, who aren't here today, but they
Yeah.
both, you know, were fine with the building and it's a, you know, it's a nice looking structure, I think now. So, I mean,
I believe all that to be true. I believe your neighbors would like it. You're asking, 7 independent individuals who know nothing, who read paper and look at drawings, show up at the place to visit the property, as some of us have done today. And it's confusing as to what's there. Mr. Yurley just corrected that in my mind. We now know that the old building was torn down and a new building was built in its place, all without benefit of a demolition permit or a building permit. And now you're asking us to reach back in time and approve what you've done.
well, yeah,
Again,
I
excuse me, sir. And
Right.
again, without any definitive information of what was there or where the property lines exist. We don't know if it's on your property or your neighbor's property. We can't make any decision on facts we don't have in evidence.
okay.
And the only way to get those facts and evidence, there's 2 ways. And again, not to do your job, you can either hire a licensed land surveyor who will come in and survey the property and tell us definitively, is your garage on your neighbor's property? In the absence of that, you can hire a lawyer. You can get your 2 neighbors together and come up with a boundary line agreement that you can present to this board that says we've met, we're together, and this is the property line that we all agree to. And then that boundary line agreement is filed at the county.
Okay.
That would substitute a survey. Survey's probably cheaper.
I've got a question.
Peter, I didn't hear you. I'm sorry.
I have a question for Mr. Haney.
Yes, sir.
Neighbors knew that this was being built and they have no problem with it?
They have no problem with it.
Just from my perspective, it's just a garage. It's on a back side lot and I have no problem with it as long as it's on Mr. Haney's property.
And one of our neighbors is here.
Two of our neighbors.
Two of our neighbors are here in the meeting.
Yes, sir. No, I concur with Mr. Friedman. I do
Yeah,
not have a problem with the property at all or the garage. The question is, what property is it built on?
Well,
You're
I don't
asking
know
this
that,
bo- You're asking this board to give permission to build a building, to demolish a building and now build a new building on property that we don't know who it belongs to.
well, I'm not willing to give him permission to build a building on somebody else's property, but I am willing to give him permission to keep this building up if it's on his property.
I
And-
concur.
And then I don't think he really needs to come back to us if it's on his property.
Well, he does, because part of the requirement, I think this lot's only like 3,700 square feet, and I think part of the requirement is it requires site plan review.
Yeah, he'll need site plan review and an area variance.
And it's hard
If
to
it's on his
approve a
property.
site plan if it's not on his property, or we don't know where the property line is in relation to the building that was built.
So what if I go to my neighbors and we come up with a, I don't know,
An
an
agreement.
agreement with that, that, because basically we've done that already, We've moved the garage from, it was about 15 feet further onto our neighbor's property. And it was there, it was the existing garage and we moved it further into our property.
Okay.
The other drawing I had this detail on it, but some reason I guess you didn't get that. I don't know why, but
Well, if you would like some additional time to consider what you heard tonight and modify your application, I would certainly be willing to make that motion to the board and see if
Well, I
they
mean,
would accept it.
Well, if we need to have definitive property lines, I don't have that. We never got a survey when we bought the house. And, you know, from the aerial maps, when we bought the house 2 years ago, it looked like, you know, our garage that is now down was well onto the property in the backyard of the 16 Fair Street, you know, according to the maps. So I don't know where the property line is. So, you know, I have no, we'd have to get a survey to do that. So, I don't know.
Allison
My humble
McGraw,
recommend, my
Allison
humble
McGraw, are
recommendation
you a
is
neighbor?
survey. I'm sorry, Peter. Stephanie.
Yes. I'm the neighbor on 28 Otsego Street, and I believe part of the garage was from what we thought too is on part of our property, but they did move it over and up. But I mean, the other garage was such an eyesore and was falling apart that we welcomed any upgrade. So I think what they did, nobody here has an issue. And I know, just like they said, the Harbys don't have an issue, and everybody was happy that they did it. So.
Anybody else in the audience that would like to comment on this application?
Marianne, can you unmute, please?
Okay, I'm unmuted. I would like to say that it has beautified the neighborhood immensely. And shingles would be flying off of that roof. And I was always fearful that the shingle would hit someone. And when somebody beautifies this block, I think they should get 100% credit, because we're the forgotten block. I have gone to the city numerous times. You have a do not park from here to the corner, and people park on the block. Children have almost got hit by a car there. It's so difficult to cross the street because you can't see. The cars are parked to the corner and you cannot see. I mean, and they did a great job in beautifying the block. So I'm all for it. I don't think they should be penalized for doing a grand thing like that. I think we should worry more about what happens with the street than somebody putting a beautiful garage on the block.
From a code perspective, I mean, even this was all done entirely outside of any sort of regulatory. I mean, this wasn't permitted. There's been no approvals of any kind for this. I mean, that's so. I mean, it's great they built a garage, but I mean, there was no sort of. I mean, we actually stopped and requested that they stop, and we drove by 2 weeks later, and the garage was done. So I mean, I think that's, you know, part of this is this garage was built without. I mean, they wouldn't be in this position if there'd been any sort of, you know, communication as far as the process of building said garage.
Well, when I first put the permit in, the garage was already down. All right. He was here to do it. Now, if I had waited till now, his schedule, I wouldn't have a garage this winter. So, and he was here on site building. I'm supposed to tell him to stop everything.
So typically what happens is a contractor comes to the code office and gets a permit before they start doing construction.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, that's the state law.
All right.
I mean,
that's
what
like
you have here is a very sympathetic appeal that we agree with. We agree with your neighbors that it looks better than what was there. The problem we have is we failed to follow process or law in this case. We don't make the laws. We're in charge with making exceptions to the law where warranted. In this case, I do not see a basis for making an exception with the information that's been provided. To this moment, we still do not know if your garage is in fact on your property or not. And without knowing that one fact, how would you expect us to make a decision? This board then approves your garage and you go, this is my garage. Your neighbor sells their house. The new homeowner has it surveyed. It says, oh, well, the city gave me permission to build my garage in this location. We did not.
But there's a
We will
letter,
not.
when we bought the house back in 2018, we noticed that the garage was on the neighbor's property, and we didn't buy the house unless we got confirmation that it was going to be our garage. And there's a note in the deed or whatever that says that as long as we repair the garage, that we can keep the garage is the footprint of the garage is ours. I don't know. I don't have.
Submit that to the code office.
What's that?
Deed with its notation.
No, it's in the deed, but I didn't send it to you guys.
Is the deed filed with the county?
Yes.
So you should have no trouble getting a copy of the deed.
We have one.
Yeah, we have it here, but I can get it to you.
Well, you need to get it to the code enforcement officer for his review. And that may clear up some of this. Right now, I do not have any confidence that that garage is built on your property.
Yes, so I'm in the Zoom meeting. What you got?
No, I just don't.
Can I? Excuse me? The garage that was there previous to the one that we just rebuilt was only partially on our property, and we had, I don't know if you call it an easement, but this letter that said that the garage was there for our use and that we could repair it or fix it. That if we built a new garage, that we could not build a new garage. But we could fix the existing one, and that was our original plan. And then it was knocked down. Anyway, the new garage that we built is either not on anyone else's property or less so. It doesn't take up any more of the footprint than the old one. I mean, it takes up less of the footprint than the old garage that was there.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
It does, and we believe everything you're saying. We believe that you believe it. The problem is you're asking an independent housing and zoning board to make a conclusion and a decision without information.
Okay.
I, for one, am not willing to do that.
If the two neighbors then are in agreement with what is done, and if there is even a little bit, like she said, that it is moved. So even if there is a slight bit on our properties, I know that I don't mind, we don't mind. And I'm pretty sure the other neighbors don't either. If we come together and get some documentation stating that, then this could all be kind of
Yes,
passed.
ma'am. As we said earlier, there's two simple solutions for this in terms of the property and the property lines. The first one is to have a survey done, which you will know in fact what is there. The second is something called a boundary line agreement, which can be held between the property owner and adjacent property owners, establishing the boundary line. And everybody agrees to it. Your lawyers draw it up. They define the line in a methodology that is repeatable, which may again require some surveying. And then you submit that.
To whom? To
You
you?
would go to the code enforcement office. Or, I mean, right now, they've been fairly, from my perspective in their history, they've been fairly lenient. A garage was taken down without a demolition permit. That's a violation of law. A new garage was built without a building permit. Another violation of law. And now you come before the board and ask us to codify tearing the garage down, building the garage up, and the location of the garage, which you can't prove.
Okay.
Then you have two neighbors here, they're saying, yep, we think it's great. I agree, I think it looks great.
Yeah.
But we still do not know in perpetuity, and all of our decisions at this board go in perpetuity, that garage is on your property. They can say it all day long until they write it down, stamp it, and file it with a deed restriction in the county. It isn't so, or until you survey it and the surveyor says this garage is 100% on your property. you know, John owns this 100%.
Yeah.
Problem solved.
Okay,
Now, if you'd like, I would ask the board to table your application to allow you to get the additional information. You would be able to come back through the code office to us without paying any additional fees, but you'll have to do the additional work.
okay,
Yes, please.
that sounds good.
Is that something you would like us to consider?
Yeah, sure. That sounds
Okay.
good.
Is there any commissioner that would like to make a motion to table this?
Yes,
I'll second
Is that
that.
Peter?
yes.
Peter made a motion to table it. Was there a second?
It was me and Louisa.
Louisa seconds the motion. Any further questions or comments on the motion? Hearing none, call the roll, please, Carrie.
May I ask for clarification?
Clarification is we're going to table the application to allow the applicant to go back and either survey or come up with boundary line agreements to prove the ownership of the property upon which their garage sits.
Is there a deadline or a time frame?
I'm reluctant to do that right now, Carrie, because we don't meet on a regularly scheduled basis.
That's fine. I was just curious for the decision letter. if you
Let
were
me
gonna
ask
put
the question. John, how long do you think it would take you to get that information together?
Well, I guess we need a lawyer, right, to draw up something, right?
I can't give you that advice.
So I don't know, couple of
3
months?
2 months would be good for you?
Yeah, 2 or 3 months,
We'll
probably.
make it 3.
Okay.
Carrie, we'll make it 3 months. Was be tabled for our third meeting. It may be longer than 3 months. We don't meet every month right now because of the COVID.
Okay.
You may not need a lawyer for this.
Okay.
So
So we can draw up a letter and an agreement with our neighbors.
No, sir. The letter must be in form and fact to be filed as a deed amendment in the county.
Okay,
You must have demonstrative proof of ownership of the land on which your garage sits.
In a survey.
okay, but we didn't own the land on which the old garage sat. We didn't own all of that land. We just had this, I don't know if it's called an easement or what.
But it sounds like when you demolished the garage, you lost the right to that easement.
yeah.
Okay, all right.
I mean, if you want some help with this privately after the meeting, I'll be happy to talk with you.
Okay,
Thank
And
you.
I can point you in any direction that you need to go.
okay, thank you.
Ed's not a lawyer.
Peter's also well versed in it as well.
Ed's not a lawyer, but he knows a lot of lawyers.
I hope that's not an advertisement there, Peter.
No, I
So
was,
so there's a motion to table this, to allow them to reapply at the code office. Steve is here. He's heard all of this. Do you have any comments, Steve?
Yeah, no, I mean, once we actually know where the lot line is, then we can do site plan review.
Perfect. Carrie, the motion has been made and seconded. Would you call the roll, please?
Chair May,
Aye.
Commissioner Shields,
Aye.
Commissioner Tomeno,
Aye.
Commissioner Friedman,
yes.
Commissioner Reese. Commissioner Reese, you're muted.
Aye.
Commissioner Montanti,
Aye.
passes.
Great. So, John, you have your time. If you do want some help, you can get a hold of the clerk or the code enforcement officer. They can tell you how to get a hold of me directly if you want it.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Yep, not a problem.
Thank you.
I know these things are not easy.
Yeah.
There's a lot of arcane rules and stuff at play here.
All right, well, I do appreciate your time. Thank you.
Yes, sir. All right, Carrie, what's the next issue, please?
You have agenda item number 3, area variance and seeker for 13 Spruce Street, Beth Ashbaugh.
And who is here representing 13 Spruce Street?
Beth is.
I figured
She's
that out.
muted.
But you have to ask anyway, you know, we're recording all this.
You're
Oops,
muted. There you go.
got it.
I don't know if going last is a plus or not. I don't know.
I'm I'm Beth Ashbaugh, also Sarah Ashbaugh representing 13 Spruce Street.
AKA. Would you like to tell the board what you'd like to do, please?
Yes, thank you. I'm looking to turn my garage into a single stylist use hair salon studio. I'm getting a little bit further along in my career, and working by myself seems really nice. So we're looking to also put up a carport over the driveway to protect from snow, and build a deck between the house and the garage, and possibly terrace the front yard a little bit. It's that's the studio view right there. The other additions, deck and terracing, etc., will probably happen at a much future date, but they are definitely fantasies that I have of my property. Let's see, what any additions that I do plan to do to the property aren't really adding new building or anything. It would just be using existing structure. The driveway addition, if it were to be done, would be done in a manner to match the house, which is a Dutch colonial.
Carport addition?
Yeah, that would be lovely. It'd make it nice for clients to not have to, get rained on as much or snowed on as much as possible. So I think there's another drawing too, I think, but I don't know.
It should be showing the studio view, or did it not show that one?
I thought you would be showing like the property view.
Yeah, I can show that one too. The site plan?
Yeah.
Yep. Is that what's up now?
Yep.
It should be, okay.
No, that's, I had one that had actual, where I took a screenshot and drew things on it.
What?
So the carport may come out to the city sidewalk or not.
Yeah, it's whatever I am allowed to do, I think. I was listening intently. Like, this is a very fascinating and terrifying process, I must say.
Well, it shouldn't be. Take your time. I mean, we're not mean about this, and we're certainly
no.
willing to help anybody get through this.
No, everything makes complete sense to me. I'm just like, whoo, it's a lot.
Well, there is a lot, and it helps when you come to the code office and the board before you do it.
Yeah.
It's always helpful.
I would be the only person working there, so what else do I need?
So the hair salon you're proposing to convert your garage to will just be for you as a single operator?
Yes, nobody else.
I got from reading this, but I see 2 seats.
That's just for if I do 2 clients at a time. More like if mom comes in and I'm doing daughter's hair back and forth, it's more like an ergonomic situation. Every stylist fantasizes about having 2 chairs to work with. So it's more like a hair color. Yeah. So like I'd be doing mom's hair color and cutting daughter's hair at the same time, or dad's getting.
So even though we see 2 seats, it's still one customer at a time. Is basically what you're asking.
Yeah, or a family pod. That's what I'm doing right now with the COVID. I'm not having Susie and her 20 girlfriends come over to get her hair done. It's having Mary Lou and her 2 kids.
Sure. Maybe you can help me understand what is a family pod.
The people who live in the same house, they're in the same social group. Like right now with COVID, I'm not.
Perfect.
Does that make sense? Yeah.
So I mean, again, what we said earlier, if you're able to win approval from the board, what we do stays with this property forever. So we're cautious about the things that we do.
Yeah.
And we want to allow people to do what they want to do as long as it's not disruptive to the city's master plan or its code.
Oh, and I wanted to say that we also were looking to fence the yard too, the property, all the way around. I know, Peter, you're right next to us with one of your things, so that would be something we could discuss if need be. And
I'm right next to you?
yeah, on the you are your property. You have a property next to me.
No, I don't.
On don't you have one on the?
I wish I did.
Peter, you holding out on us?
I maybe somebody bought one in my name and I'm paying for it, but
And don't know it.
I'm wrong. I could be totally clueless here. I'm good at that.
Clueless works.
So, you know, you have a fence, and the deck. These are all things, you know, you want to do, you know, landscaping type improvement.
Well, you're allowed to build a fence and the code office can give you the instructions you need about your fence, and you can build your fence, you know, on the property line, on your side of the property line, and they'll talk about, you know, the heights and things and restrictions on your fence. You know, what we're here to deal with is the stuff you have in front of us, you know, without expanding that.
So can I just jump in real quick?
Yes, sir.
So I advise the applicant that when they fill this out, to put everything on the application that they ever thought they might want to do, just so that the board would have a chance to see the intended project in its totality, so that you could make recommendations or, you know, so that the application process was entirely transparent. So there was, you know, this is the intent, this is what we're trying to do, this is what we want it to look like when it's done, so that there was no doubt as to what was, you know, being proposed.
Right. So then if you don't mind, Steve, why don't you give the board a quick overview of everything as you see it and what she needs relief from and what she does not.
So the main concern with this particular application, this application would be, you'd be able to approve it because it's really a home I just dumped. It's a home occupation.
Yes, sir.
The only issue that she has is I believe it's undersized. The lot might be undersized, or maybe it's a setback. I can't remember. It's on the memo.
Yes.
You asked for both.
Right. So, and in the code, it says any home occupation cannot be done in a property that's grandfathered for setback, parcel size. There's a whole section in there, and I think I included it in the memo.
You did, and that's why she requires the variance. So she'll need, you know, she'll need the setback and area.
Correct.
Okay. And as far as her desire to build a fence or do landscaping, are you going to require anything?
Right. So that's not really as long as the fence is on the property line, as long as the landscaping doesn't obstruct the sidewalk, it's pretty boilerplate. But I just advised as part of the application to include a thorough site plan so that the board would see what was being proposed.
So potentially the carport could be in the front yard? I mean, could
No.
invade the front yard setback?
Oh, I get, on 13, on Clinton, the yard on Clinton.
Yes.
It has two fronts, it's a corner lot from what I'm
Yeah.
seeing here, Peter. Do you have your map in front of you?
No, but as I recall, there's
Harry, can you put it up, please?
I don't remember what the front yard setback is for carports, but maybe we can review that without a drawing of the carport. I don't know, or she can come back just for the carport.
Well, you have that basically. So can you see it now, Peter, on the screen?
Yes.
Okay, so they've got, you know, there's two streets, so two front yards are sitting there.
Right.
Traditionally, we have determined what is the front and what is the side. And in this case, it seems to me, you know, I mean, I don't know. You tell me what's the front yard when you look at it.
I think they're both front yards. I don't know that we've traditionally made a decision
We have.
saying one is and the other isn't.
No, we
I
have.
wouldn't call doing it once or twice in 20 years a tradition.
Well, it's been more than that, Pete, but you know, it was prior to your term on the ZBA. But what your point is, what do you want to know? The setback from the sidewalk or the
Yeah.
street to the front of the carport?
Yeah.
Steve, do you have that information?
I'm not in front of my computer right now. Typically the setbacks for accessory buildings are like a foot. I know there's like a foot in the rear. It might be a foot to 5 feet in the side. I can't remember, but the front is more significant. It's like, I want to say it's like 12 feet, but like I said, I'm not in front of my computer at the moment.
Sure. And I can't see that very well. Pete, can you determine how far it is from the front of the garage to the street? I cannot see
driveway
that.
is a car length.
Yeah, it would be in the front yard. It would be in the setback. I know that for a fact.
Yeah, yeah. I'm quite sure you're right, Steve. It's 12 feet.
If I'm just trying to
Setback.
play it off the width of the garage, which I can see is 12 foot 2, and the driveway is being shown, you know, as
Yeah, I
it's
guess
like about 24 feet, Peter. I don't know. What do you think?
I think there's no way you could get a carport in there and be back 12 feet for a whole car.
Right.
Okay.
So she would need a variance to allow her to do that. And we'd need to
Yes.
establish the length of the carport. Do you
Yes.
have any idea how long you would like that carport to be? I'm not seeing anything here that gives me any dimensions.
Yeah, you're right. 10 feet?
I think you can get by with 10 feet, but I don't think 10 feet will put a car, but that's not my decision. Maybe they have 10-foot cars.
It's a Toyota RAV4 right now.
Yeah, so the front yard setback is 20 feet.
So you'd have to have a 2-foot car roughly.
Right, gotcha.
Park your motorcycle sideways.
I get it now. I get it. Sorry. So conceivably, then I would just be building an awning, not a carport, because it wouldn't cover the car.
Well, if you had something in front of us that we could see and make a decision on that was of similar to your drawings for your Studio 13, where
Gotcha. Okay.
this board and its members could see what you're proposing, we could make a decision.
A carport drawing. Gotcha.
But with what you have here right now, we have no ability to make a decision because we don't really know what you want. I mean, we know you want a carport. We don't know what it looks like, what it's made out of, how high, how wide, and how long.
Oh, okay. So I was going to, it would be a wooden structure that would go with the decor of the house. I don't know if you have a photo of the house. If you look at the front porch.
Carrie, do you have such a thing?
I mean, I sent all of that stuff in, I thought. But the pillars of the carport and everything would match like the porch and the rest of the house. It would look like it was just built with the house.
You know, so what I would throw out is what we've done with some of these other ones, and I think it's worked pretty well, is that we agree to a setback, like an area variance for a setback, and then just have the applicant meet with me for approval on the design of the structure. I mean, that might be an option to, you know, as a way to prevent this applicant from having to come back again.
Yes, sir. Stephen, I like that idea. Oh, there. Right. So now we can see the house. So I mean.
So if you see the pillars,
No, yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so.
Stephen, as you look down the sight line of that house where she proposes to build the carport.
Right.
How close are the rest of the buildings to the sidewalk or the road?
I mean, it's tight. Like that's why she's kind of here, because there's not much of a setback anywhere on that lot. I mean, she's on top of the neighboring houses.
No, I mean, if you're standing on the sidewalk looking left and right. So if you're looking at the picture of the house, if you can see that, you're looking at the side entrance door to the house and you look to your left.
Yeah, I mean, it's
what is the setback on that street?
I don't know off the top of my head, but it's not anywhere near 20 feet.
Okay, so could we safely fashion some language and say that the setback could be no greater than that of the average of the houses on the street.
Yeah, so that's what I was actually going to propose, is that we essentially say that the setback should be in, in proximity to the adjoining properties, or
In
some sort
concert
of,
with the neighborhood.
right.
Right, so we got a better picture up here now. Thank you, Carrie.
Thank you, Carrie.
So
So-
yeah, if you go up Clinton Street, that's, I think, what you're looking to do.
Right. Correct. So drive us down Clinton Street. There we go. So now we're seeing the garage and we see a tree sticking out.
That tree is gone. This is from Google. This is the house has been painted.
2012.
Yeah.
Right,
So-
no,
I haven't been down your road lately, so.
Okay.
driven by your house.
Yeah.
I mean, you could almost even say that the setback could meet the setback of the house, maybe even.
Absolutely.
I would have no problem with that at all if that would be acceptable to the applicant. Peter, I would even be able to say it could go out as far as the sidewalk in front of the house, just to give her a little more space.
Yes,
Would you agree with that, Peter?
yes.
Stephen, do you see the sidewalk?
Yeah. No, I
Okay.
mean, I've been to the house. I think that we could,
Does the sidewalk still exist?
Oh, from the side door to the driveway?
Yes.
No.
Steve,
But
do you
that-
do you have any way of determining that distance
Yeah,
with
that's still
reasonable
within-
certainty?
Yeah.
Peter, would you accept what he determines?
Yes.
Okay. So I think we've got an answer for you on your carport.
Okay.
Is there anyone online that would like to comment on this application?
Nobody here but board members and council members and myself and the applicant.
We're terribly important, I guess. All right, any other board members have any questions for this applicant, and do they understand the essence of what we're proposing now for her setback on her carport?
Beth, can you just walk us through what the outside of the building is going to look like?
So the outside of the garage will have French doors. And I was going to probably I was thinking of extending the roof out a little bit, and then having a trellis as well, possibly. I'm not sure. I mean, it's still, this fantastical conjecture.
But that will eat up your carport space. Just remember that, because your
yeah.
carport space is going to be limited to the face of your garage as it currently exists and the street side of the sidewalk.
The carport would be the width of the whole garage,
The width is not the issue, it's the length.
the length.
yeah, the length. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The width will be the width of the garage.
It looks like it just wouldn't work at all.
I don't see how it's gonna work. It looks like it's 8 feet,
Yeah.
maybe.
Well, as she said earlier, Jim, it might wind up being an awning,
Yeah.
but it'll be a nice looking awning and an entrance. And she
Yeah.
might be able to pull her car up under it enough to get out of the car.
Yes.
I mean, we can't determine that, and she doesn't
It's-
have any
yeah.
drawings, so we're trying to fashion.
If it
Well,
were
I
to
mean,
go, it would completely serve that purpose if it went halfway down the driveway.
So you're gonna be happy with this.
I think so.
Well, you need to say yes or no, because if we make a decision,
Bill? Yes? No? Yes.
that means yes.
Yes, I'm happy with that.
Okay. Are there any questions for any other board members? I'm
The
sorry,
trellis-
Melissa.
I'm sorry, the trellis would not be part of the plan then?
No, it would just be probably just mimicking the roof line. Does that make sense? Since if it's only going to come
That would make sense.
half,
So
yeah.
let me see if I can sum this up. Your carport or awning, whatever you want to call it, will be of the same shape and size as your existing roof, supported by columns that look similar to what you have on the front of your house.
Is
It
that
will extend from the garage to the street side of the sidewalk that we're seeing in the picture.
that would be what I would that would be my
Not
fantasy.
that sidewalk, Terry,
Yeah.
the one next to the house, that one.
That
That's
one.
what we,
That
that's what we agreed
Yeah.
to.
Yeah.
And Steve said he can determine that distance, and we'll let him do that.
Yes.
Okay. So we understand what we're talking about. That is the extent of the carport or awning roof, whatever you want to call it. Whatever the size turns out to be, that's what it is.
Yes.
It will look like your front porch with your columns on the front of your house.
Yes.
Okay, so we've covered that. So I'm comfortable with that. Peter, are you comfortable with that description?
Yes, I don't understand the trellis though.
Oh, that's a. I mean, if I were to put a trellis on one side of it, would have for clematis or something. I don't know.
So that would be parallel to Spruce Street, the trellis?
No.
Oh, perpendicular to a garage door.
Yeah.
Perpendicular to the garage door and to the left is what she was pointing at.
Yeah.
Something I assume that grows plants on it, Peter. I don't know.
Yeah.
I see, coming down to perpendicular to Clinton Street.
Yeah, it wouldn't interfere with any sidewalk or it
Well,
would.
she can't come out any further than the awning or carport does.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
so it's just a screen.
Yeah.
Yes,
a
sir.
screen barrier. I'm
That's
good
my
with all of
understanding.
it. I'm
Sir?
good with all of this. I have a question about the, just to be clear, you won't have any employees at all, right? No assistants, nobody else working there but you.
No. Oh,
And
I would like to add the caveat though. If I happen to be doing a wedding, another stylist would come in to help with the wedding party. That's what we do in the industry, is we, especially since there's not a, and all the stylists that I would work with, I have a couple stylists, like two that I would rotate through to help me with weddings. And we go to each other's places of work. Does that make sense? So it's like, that would be like 3 times a year, another person would come in to work with me, but it would only be for a wedding.
So let me remind you that this session is recorded,
Yes.
and anything that you voluntarily give up will be added to our motion.
Okay.
Should it be approved, and you will live with it.
Yes.
So if you have something that happens occasionally and infrequently and the neighbors are not complaining about it, I probably wouldn't be talking about it.
Okay.
But you suit yourself.
good
Okay.
point. That's a very good point, Ed.
And what is actually the parking like on Clinton Street? Both sides of the street?
No, one side, and unless it's Monday or Tuesday, and then it flips. This is
One
one
of
side.
those things you can park here Tuesday to Wednesday morning.
Okay.
You got to be a Philadelphia lawyer to figure out where to park.
Yep.
But I've never seen a real big parking issue there, Louisa.
Yeah, I didn't think so either. When she just mentioned, a larger group of people, I'm just curious if there was enough ample parking on either side of the street, which I know that there is, but
Yeah, and there's a church parking lot across the street too. So, but
All right, so what we're fashioning here is trying to deal with your request. And your basic request is that you want to have a single seat hair salon with an owner occupied use. That is you.
yes.
That doesn't preclude you from once in a while having something else. It means it cannot be a regular, consistent. You haven't applied for it, you're not getting it.
Right.
And it will be built in accordance with the drawings that you provided to us.
Yes.
And you will complete that to the sole satisfaction, if you get this variance, of the code enforcement officer. You will
Yes.
agree to follow his direction.
Yes, I will.
If you, the carport or awning will be built as we described. You will match the pitch of the roof of the garage. You can extend from the face of the garage toward Clinton Street, a distance no greater than the street side of the sidewalk next to the house side door. Do we understand each other there?
Yes.
And it's not the public sidewalk. It's
No,
the
it is
side.
the sidewalk you saw in the picture that does or
Right.
does not exist, that Mr. Yurley said he can establish that distance.
Okay,
And again, that will be in his sole discretion. So you will be dealing with him about where that point is.
Okay.
And that the columns that support the front of the awning and or carport, depending on its size, will look similar to the columns you have on the front of your house.
Yes.
Okay. Does any other board member want to add anything else to that description?
I just want to be clear that this is a home occupation.
Yes,
So
sir.
should you say move out of the house and rent it to 17 students or something, or 3, you still could not use that garage as your shop any longer. You have to live in the house.
Gotcha. That makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah. So the variances aren't for the use. The variances are just for the setbacks.
Right.
I mean, yeah.
Use is
so
allowed.
the use is permitted in the zone. It's just not with the setbacks that she has.
Right.
So in the future, someone could move in there and theoretically put a different home occupation in there, but you couldn't. She couldn't run a business out of the garage. You know, like
Beth, is that understood? Peter, is that acceptable with you?
Yes.
Okay.
But in the future, if she sold the building to me, I could run, a widget shop out of there if I wanted to.
Yes. You can
Right.
operate any permitted home application under our current zoning.
Oh, so
Correct.
that's kind of a selling point then.
Well, I don't think you can have a widget. I don't know what a widget is, I guess.
Well, there you go. Let's not go down that rabbit hole, Peter.
Yeah, well, I don't think you could just sell yarn out of the shop or something.
Well, if you look in
I
the
don't
code,
know.
sorry.
I do not have in front of me allowed permissible home occupations, but they're defined in our code.
Last question, and it's actually in regards to signing. It's a completely different permit, but what will be allowed? Or what is the vision for that?
I was hoping to just keep it simple. It would just say Studio 13 and it would just be on the side of the garage. Nothing fancy.
There's a limitation to the sign, Louisa.
Yes.
Steve can advise her of what that is and where it can be placed. And if she wants to move from that, she'll be required to file a variance for a sign
Yeah,
application.
I just wanted to bring that to her attention that we're not going to have this massive sign on the side of the garage.
No,
I think the law is a 1 square foot or.
Yeah.
I thought it was bigger than
1 by
that, Peter.
2
but
or something like
yeah,
that.
maybe it's 2 by 3 or
Pretty
it's
small.
not big. It's pretty small.
Yeah. Yeah, it's smaller than a realtor sign.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so do we all understand each other, what we're doing? Okay. Lou, do you have any questions?
No, I'm fine.
Melissa, any questions?
No, I'm all set. Thank you.
Dave,
I'm fine.
Jem,
I'm all good.
you're good? Peter?
Good. Good.
Okay, so I'd look for a motion either to approve or deny this application as we have described it with all the conditions thereto attached.
I move to approve it.
Is there a second?
Second.
Carrie, do you have a complete description from what we've said that you can fashion and send to the code office?
I do. My only clarification, you had indicated single chair. Do you mean single stylist as her design has two
Oh,
chairs?
Yeah, sorry, single stylist. That would be correct.
That's fine. We'll leave it as single stylist because she explained that sometimes they have to move them to another chair to do some other operation that I have no familiarity with whatsoever. Steve, do you understand everything that went down and can you enforce this?
Uh-oh, Steve might have dropped the cabinet on himself.
Yeah, I was gonna say, push the button for Steve.
I'm here.
All right, so do you understand everything we've said and you feel comfortable and competent that you can enforce it?
I'm super comfortable.
Super comfortable.
Yeah, no,
Well, and to make sure that's in the minutes, super
I've
comfortable.
met with the applicant a bunch of times. I mean, she's employed an architect. I mean, this is a pretty straightforward application.
Perfect. All right, so this is we have to do a seeker on this. Carrie, do you want to pull up the form and read the questions off? I will answer them. If any board member takes exception to any of my answers, please raise your hand.
So,
This is a type 2 action.
correct. It's a type 2 action, so you don't have to do any further, there's no further review under seeker.
Well, we have to determine that it's a type 2 and everyone has to agree, and there was some language that we're supposed to say. Carrie, you'll find the language. I'm declaring this a type 2 action. Is there any dissent amongst the board members?
No.
Okay, so what I'd like to do is I'll make that motion that it's a type 2 action. Karen, I'd like you to call the roll, please.
Do we have a second? Or you?
I second.
Thank you, Jim. Chairman,
Aye.
Commissioner Shields,
Aye.
Commissioner Tomato,
Aye.
Commissioner Friedman,
Yes,
Commissioner Reese,
Aye.
Commissioner Montanti,
Aye.
passes.
Great. So at this point, we would ask for a motion to approve this application with the stipulations that have been read into the record, with the understanding that Mr. Yurley will supervise their faithful execution. Anyone want to make a motion?
So moved.
Melissa, is there a second? God, we're all quiet.
seconded.
Thank you, Peter. Is there any further discussion amongst the board members? Carrie, is there anybody from the audience out there?
There is not.
There is not. All right, please call the roll.
Chairman,
Aye.
Commissioner Shields,
Aye.
Commissioner Tomato,
Aye.
Commissioner Friedman,
Yes,
Commissioner Reese,
Aye.
Commissioner Montanti.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Super. Start cutting or coloring or whatever it is that our
Thank
stylist
you very
does.
much, everyone, for your time. I appreciate
Really,
it.
I need one. My hair's all gray. Terrible. Carrie, is there anything else? Any other business?
I have no further business.
Ah, thank you so much. And I thought this was going to be easy tonight. With no other business, then we shall declare a merciful end to it. Thank you all.
Thank you.
can't we
Appreciate
get a
Thank
closer
you.
look?
it. What, Pete?
I wanted to get a